Well, good morning, church. I love doing that. My name is Jee. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here. I have this amazing story to share with you all. I truly believe that one divine moment can accomplish what a lifetime of striving never could. So this is that story of that divine moment in which God brought about something that my friends and I never even imagined that we could be a part of. So in the summer of 2024, I have a friend named Elliot. He parked his car and he went off to run some errands. He comes back to his car and starts driving. And he noticed that there's a little bit of a breeze, so he tries to roll the windows up. He keeps driving and realizes there's still a little bit of a breeze. So then he looks back to realize, oh my goodness, his window was completely shattered. So he looks down to see his backpack was stolen, which contained about $6,000 worth of tech gear in it. And so fortunately, he still had Apple tracking devices, so he actually saw his backpack making its way downtown, and he calls the police and he goes, 911, can you help me? My backpack is stolen. And then 911 says, unfortunately, until they stop for at least 15 minutes, we can't do anything about it. So Elliot goes, well, can I go after them myself? I guess so. Be safe. Goodbye. And then he starts going James Bond style. And he's watching it go downtown. He sees it stop. So he parks his car. And then sure enough, he sees a man with his backpack strapped over his shoulder. And so Elliot feels the sense of the Lord come upon him and says, hey, show this guy my love. So Elliot approaches this man and says, it must have been a really rough day if you felt that this was the only thing you could resort to. How is it that I can bless you today? And so the man explained to Elliot why he needed money in for all these different reasons. So Elliot says, hey, you know what? In that case, how about I give you money for my bag back? There's things in that bag that's worth more than money. So he gives him money. Elliot then asks once again, how is it that I can bless you today? And the man says, well, I'm hungry. So Elliot says, come on, let me buy you a meal. He buys him a meal. And Elliot asks once again, how is it that I can bless you today? And the man looks at him and he starts to cry and he just asks, how can you treat me this way? I've done nothing but bad things to you. Why are you so kind to me? Can you ever forgive me? That's what the man asked. And Elliot responded by saying, of course I can forgive you. You've already been forgiven. By the way, this is what grace is. It's just a gift that's given to you for you to receive, not based on anything you deserved, but it's just freely given to you. It's forgiveness. And so when Elliot explained this to me, it really helped me understand the concept of grace for myself, because this is what Jesus did for us, church. We've all fallen short of the glory of God's standard, having messed up in some sort of way. And what the Bible teaches is when we have these wrongdoings, we all deserve death. So this means that every single one of us, having lived in sin, deserve death. But instead of us having to be punished, Jesus, the Son of God, took it upon himself that all that punishment is not on us. He actually took it all upon himself. Why? Because God loved the world so much. He loved you so much that he sent his one and only Son to die on our behalf, to take on the entire wrath of God for our wrongdoings. But the story doesn't end there. Jesus defeated death by resurrecting 3 days later. So what does that mean for us? It means that we have a Savior in Jesus Christ. Anyone who puts their faith in Jesus can be seen to be blameless, perfect in the eyes of God, which then allows us to have a seat in heaven. So it's not based on merit or how many good things we've done. It's simply based on the faith that we have in what Jesus did for us. And this is called the gospel, or the good news. And so Elliot shares this story with me, and I'm moved. And when I read the Bible, the words are popping out, and I can see that, wow, I'm called to help the displaced lives, those who are powerless, the homeless. For example, Matthew 25 reads, truly I tell you that what you did for the least of these, you did for me. He will say to those on his left, depart from me, you who are cursed, into the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me nothing to drink. I needed clothes, and you did not clothe me. Whatever you did not do for the least of these, you did not do for me. And James 2 reads, suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you is to say to them, go in peace, be well fed, keep warm, but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? So I read this and I feel called to treat all people the way I would treat Jesus, especially those who are in need. So a group of us decide to gather and we go downtown. We just grab a bunch of hot dogs and McDoubles from McDonald's, and we decide to share the message of Jesus in Hastings Street. Honestly, we have no idea what we're doing, but we do it unsure. I remember feeling I was quite scared, but we do it scared. And the results, they were eye-opening. I hear of stories of how people ended up in terrible situations. One lady, for example, I met and I asked her, "What is your story?" And she tells me, "Growing up, my parents passed away at a very young age, so my uncle was the one to take care of me. And unfortunately, he abused me for years and years. And so the only solution I could think of to get out of this situation was to make myself as ugly as possible. And so I turned to drugs to make myself as ugly as possible." She was able to escape the household, but unfortunately she got addicted, and so she went to the source of the drugs, which is East Hastings. And so I hear of countless stories like this. And so my friends and I are broken for these lost souls, and so we continue to obey in serving in this ministry. And church, I believe that every time a Christian obeys, it's like a layer of self dissipates and allows more and more of Jesus to shine through us. So time goes on, and it comes to mind that I'm actually not treating my street friends with the dignity and respect that they deserve. For example, if Pastor Arthur were to come to my home for a meal, I wouldn't just buy him a Costco hot dog. No, I would make him a homemade meal, one that's healthy and delicious. So why am I doing anything different for my street friends? And so we start thinking and praying about finding a kitchen. Weeks later, I get invited to a Christian business event, and I meet the owner of a restaurant and cooking school. We decide to have coffee a little bit later. Instead of discussing business like I expected we would, he starts telling me how he has a heart for giving to the people in the downtown east side. And I tell him, "Oh, I'm involved in a similar ministry." We chat a little bit, and he goes, "Why don't you come with me?" So we get up, and he starts showing me the storage area, the fridge, the restaurant, the kitchen, and he asks me a question that makes me realize that one divine moment can accomplish what a lifetime of striving never could. He tells me, "So, when do you want to use my kitchen?" And I'm just looking at him and I go, "You barely know me. We met for about 30 seconds the other week and maybe 5 minutes today. How can you trust me?" And he goes, "No, I spend enough time with God and I know when he wants me to do something. And he wants you to use my kitchen." And so I'm just blown away. And so we graciously accept, and weeks later we start using the kitchen, even start receiving monetary support from a variety of sources. Our volunteer numbers grow from 3 to double digits overnight. And we go from distributing maybe 50 hot dogs to 200 to 300 meals, blankets, and clothes at a time. We've developed relationships with various organizations to help connect street friends get off of drugs into rehab, find a local church. And sure enough, we've seen people get clean and accept Jesus Christ into their life. We've seen souls saved. Church, I want you to really think about that carefully. God was looking down. Heart was torn for his lost children, but they now return home to the love of the Father. They have an everlasting hope, an incomparable joy in the new life they found in Christ. We will see them in heaven. Yes, you and I, we will see these souls in heaven where there's no pain, new bodies, no suffering, and the most beautiful things that the mind cannot even comprehend. So how is it that you can help? If you feel the pull of the Spirit telling you to move, then this is your sign. We need your help. We are a new ministry, but our goal is to increase our sessions from once a month to multiple times a month. And even if you decide you want to help or come once a year, that is helpful. But consistency does matter. Think about water. It's an object that is very soft. But if a drop of water were to drop on a stone over and over and over again, even the hardest stone would break and open up. And so what we want to do is we want to show up over and over again to the street friends with consistency, building relationships, getting to know them personally on a first-name basis, knowing their individual concerns, praying for them, and displaying the love of Jesus. I truly believe that a Christian's life should not be limited to Bible studies and hospitality to peers within a church walls once a week, but rather a selfless devotion of one's life to sharing the hope of heaven and serving others on a consistent basis. So we need help with volunteers to cook, shop, come into the streets with us to bring church to the lost, to share the good news and pray for our lost friends, to provide that loving touch that every human craves, but not all receive. And so I challenge you, even if you're thinking, "I don't want to," or "this is not for me," or "somebody else can do it," in this holiday season, how will you respond? For it is said that a life full of giving is a life full of joy. Brandon Blake boldly says that if you have more than what you need, then what you're holding isn't abundance, it's someone else's answer to prayer. Besides, wealth loses its meaning if it only serves you. David Platt says this in chapter 6 of his book, Radical. When I read this, it really struck me with conviction. I thought about it for a long time. He says, there are many blind spots in Christianity, areas in life that need to be uncovered so we can see things correctly and adjust our lives accordingly. For example, we look back at slave owning of churchgoers 150 years ago. We think to ourselves, how could fellow Christians, churchgoers, have treated fellow humans this way? I wonder if followers of Christ 150 years from now will look back at Christians in North America today and ask, how could they live in such big houses, drive such nice cars, and wear such nice clothes? How could they live in such affluence while thousands of children all over the world were dying because they didn't have food and water? How could they go on with their lives as though billions of poor didn't even exist? In church, when I read this, I realize we have some of these displaced lives down the street in our own backyard. How long will we pretend like it isn't our calling to serve them? And so I have an impossible goal to share with you all. But nothing is impossible with God. I dream of a day when someone comes up to us and says, do you remember back when East Hastings was full of homeless people? Almost to imply that there are none anymore and haven't been for a very long time. Now, I don't take this lightly, and feeding a couple thousand stomachs a year won't eradicate homelessness and addiction, but I believe our ministry is headed in a direction to get us on a seat at the table with those with influence. God is moving and stirring something up in this ministry as we continue to expand our network of support and reach. And I believe the impossible is possible with God. We are small, pitiful, weak men and women, but the God we serve is great. We serve a God greater than drugs, greater than addiction, greater than homelessness. We serve a God more powerful than hopelessness, violence, and abuse. We serve a God who counts every single tear that is shed and collects them in a jar to have an explanation for us of why it is that we suffered when we join him in heaven. But I want to see my street friends in heaven. And you may be the only Christian influence in that person's life. And so until that glorious day arrives, we are called as his instruments to go and love his people. In Isaiah 6:8, it reads, "The voice of the Lord is heard saying, 'Whom shall I send? Who will go for us?' May we respond in unison as a congregation, 'Here I am, Lord, send me.'" Thank you very much.